Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Signs, Planets, and Stellar Rhythms. This is Erik Roth, shamanic astrologer, taking a look at the outlook for May of 2025 and looking at all the major astrological happenings taking place this month here in May coming up. The date of this recording is the 21st of April, 2025. So excited to talk about May and what that all brings into for humanity and beyond, because it definitely is something that is carrying the energy of March and April and the wild swings of things that are taking place in the world. Even today, on this day of the recording, the Pope Francis passed away. So rest in peace to the Pope, and in general, there's just a lot of transition in the world, and this is just another example of the transitions that have been taking place for the planet and for humanity. All right, so let's get into what are the highlights of this episode. Well, we're going to do, of course, a summary of 2025 of the month of May. Going to go into the retrograde Pluto. Mercury will move into two different signs this month, into Taurus and Gemini. There's a Chiron Aries conjunction on the same day as the new moon. And we'll also talk about the new moon and the full moon. Of course, the sun always moves into Gemini in the last third of the month of May. And then Saturn, a really major deal, moving into the sign of Aries just under 2 months after Neptune moves into Aries. Okay, so it presents a transition into a new part of the 2025 astrological imprint. And we're bearing witness to the debris of the March-April period. But even in that, there are new things being created as well. So there's certainly a lot of things to clean up, but there's more debris that's being created, if you will, from all the activities that are taking place. So after Venus went direct, we experienced a time, and we're still in this time as of this recording, 22 days where all the major planets are in direct motion. So none of them are going retrograde between the 12th of April and the 4th of May, which is the day that Pluto stations retrograde. And then Mercury will ingress into the two signs, Taurus and Gemini, while we'll also have a Scorpio full moon and a Gemini new moon. And of course, the couple of big things at the end of the month, Saturn moving into Aries, and a couple days later, the first of a series of three Chiron Eris conjunctions taking place in the sign of Aries. So you can see that Aries is really strongly still impacting this month of May here. Okay, so the first thing to talk about is Pluto stationing retrograde. This happens at 3:49 Aquarius. It's the symbol of the realm that lies under the subconscious and the great mysteries of the darkness, but not evil necessarily. Transformation, empowerment, typically, death, rebirth. This is the third year in a row that Pluto is stationing retrograde in the sign of Aquarius. But the first year that it actually is completely in the sign of Aquarius, the entire calendar year. So as it continues to get deeper into that sign of Aquarius, humanity opens up to greater ideals of equality, humanitarianism, innovative thinking, and revolutionary thoughts. But in order for these ideals to show up in a healthy way, it must go through the dark, facing fears and surrender. The retrograde point of Pluto is, like many retrograde points, are a stillness of reflection of the fears of our ideals and technological progress set 250 years ago. What is the shadow of all of this? When have we really faced the raw truth of what we want to truly create? So one of the things that has been progressing for humanity, especially since Neptune has been in Pisces and some of the other transits, is this confusion around what why are we here? What are we doing? It seems like we're flailing around a lot. There doesn't seem to be any real direction that's happening here. And then after Pluto went through Capricorn as well, we've had a lot of structures and systems go through massive death rebirth processes. And so we're still having to work with the leftovers of that. And there's still more of that that hasn't been fully processed. I mean, we can look back to 2008 at the first the mortgage crisis, the bank crisis, these crises and financial crises that hit and sent the world into a recession for a few years. And we haven't necessarily had the most booming of economies in the world, although there have been times when we've been doing pretty well. It's just that there is like the systems that we have in place and structures that we have in place are not working as in the same way. At one time, they were working really well, but there is a potential for something else. And Pluto Aquarius has sort of that strong idealism of revolutionary spirit. And if you combine it with the Aries energy coming in here, with Neptune and now Saturn at the end, towards the end of May, you're really sparking a whole another wave of kind of this more of a revolutionary energy in action rather than just in thought. So something where more and more energy is being placed to move towards something where they're fighting for what is just and right in the world, and humanity speaking its truth, if you will. So that's part of this Pluto stationary retrograde, is giving us a chance to reflect on all of this and like what ideals and what thoughts do we need to come up with and connect with in order for things to actually bear fruit in the long term. So not just necessarily up in the consciousness and the mind, or even in thoughts about technological revolutions or energy revolutions, but something that maybe we'll be able to work with on an actional level as Saturn also moves into the sign of Aries. So yeah, May 4th, 2025, Pluto stations retrograde at 3:49 Aquarius. At the end of this video, there'll be a summary that will show sort of a breakdown of all the major activations by these planets throughout the month of May. Some of them I don't talk in depth with here in this video, but I will mention them at the end of the video as well. All right, so here's where Pluto stations retrograde. You can see on the chart here. This is also something that's about to come into form. There'll be a little bit of that energy this year in 2025, but more so in 2026, where we have this double sextile, which forms a trine. Trine is 120 degrees. A sextile is 60. So, you could do the math there. But you can see Uranus making its way closer and closer into Gemini. And by July, it moves into Gemini, and we get both, whereas Saturn and Saturn and Neptune at the center of this double sextile, and the center of the trine and the double sextile itself. So they're moving into position there. Pluto is moving into position as it retrogrades backwards. So you get a really relatively close one when we get into July 2025, but the real one sets up in the closest one sets up in 2026, and there's still a bit of leftover energy in 2027. Now, I will share that Neptune and Pluto by themselves have multiple years of sextiling each other. It's just that Uranus coming in at this time, providing another level, another layer of the dynamic energy that's forming here, which is really, really unusual, and where things are really flowing really, really strongly with these outer planets. And it definitely is a symbol of humanity's transition here. It really, on like a larger scale, we were an unprecedented time. The 20th century had multiple Pluto Neptune sextiles, but then Pluto slowed down, and then Neptune moved a little bit faster than Pluto for a couple of decades, and then Pluto started uh, uh, speeding up, catching up, and now it's back to that point where, um, as Pluto moved away, because it started to move faster away, and now the whole back and forth starts to come through in a very significant sextile for humanity. So another another reason why we're in really powerful times. Okay, so Mercury in Taurus and Gemini, the messenger god, or the one who moves between the realms, the worlds. They're a shapeshifter. They can transit any world, any domain, and definitely Mercury represents the mind. So it's been in Pisces and in Aries for some months, and then in May 10th, it finally moves into the sign of Taurus, and then only 15 days later moves into Gemini. 4 days after that, it conjuncts the Sun at 9 Gemini. So really fascinating this journey of Mercury. It's the fastest moving planet that we can experience from Earth. It can move through an astrological sign typically in about 2 weeks at its fastest pace. Only the moon will move faster through a sign, averaging about 2.5 days. So as Mercury moves into Taurus, we get a further progression beyond the potency of the Aries Pisces alchemy. This can bring us into, ironically, a space of slowing down and enjoying the beauty of Earth. So Mercury tends to not be about slowing down in general, but especially with the mind. But moving into Taurus can give us a chance to kind of reflect and connect into our bodies, into our sensations and our connections with the Earth, and really appreciating what we're receiving in this world. And then as it enters, 15 days later, as it enters the sign of Gemini, it speeds up the mind. It accelerates that process, and especially with communications and curiosity. So this is about being more youthful and connecting into what we're perceiving in the world. A sense of wonder is a great healthy expression of Gemini. And during this time, Mercury will conjunct the Sun on the 29th, delivering a message and helping to pick up more wisdom for humanity. So there's this back and forth of Mercury with the Sun really coming through and bringing that wisdom and knowledge from creation, if you will, back to wisdom of for humanity. Um, then we move into a Scorpio full moon here on May 12th, 2025. This happens at 9:55 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. 22 degrees, 12 minutes Scorpio, and you can see here's the moon right here. I like the you can see this wheel here. It's kind of an odd shaped triangle. And the moon kind of helps us orient towards like, okay, where is the energy going toward? And you could see it has a trine, a loose trine with the Saturn-Neptune alignment up here in Pisces and in Aries. And then it also has, of course, the opposition to the sun. But you can see Uranus also, and with the asteroid Hygeia also with this. What's really interesting about this, I'm going to share the Sabian symbol here in a moment. What's really interesting about this is that in 2024, on April 20th, there was a Jupiter-Uranus conjunction right where this very close to where the sun is at the time of the full moon. So there's really something about that specific point in that Jupiter-Uranus conjunction that is creating something for the world, and that there's this full moon in this polarity with the sun activating that point for humanity. So there could be some interesting surprises, not necessarily specifically only on that day, but it could activate something unusual for the world around that time. So the saving symbol of the full moon is a rabbit metamorphized into a nature spirit. Now, you can see the rabbit ascending into the next dimension here, becoming that nature spirit in the image, which is a really cute and adorable one. But it's one sort of like tapping into the magic of life itself. Um, and Scorpio really deals with life force energy, and so there can be that sort of that point with the aliveness and vitality that can take it, beyond the flesh and blood, if you will. So this Taurus full moon is actually going to be sitting in the constellation of the Scales near the stars Zubin el-Shamali, Brachium, and Zubin el-Akarabi. And so all those stars. So when you see the full moon, you may not be able to make out the stars there because the moon is really, really bright, and those stars aren't very bright at all. You probably have a better chance of seeing them the very next day. But it's in the scale, so there's something about the balance of things, and I'm going to bring that into my interpretation because here's the Sabian symbol keywords from Linda Hill's book, Sabian Oracle: revelation of hidden talents, vegetarianism, changing one's lifestyle completely, rapid and total transformation, giving up merely battling for survival, ascension of consciousness, elementals, evolution, moving into a new level of being, raising one's vibration, psychic attunement. This moon happens at 9:55 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time on the 12th of May. And so here's part of my kind of a brief interpretation, including with the scales constellation. So interpretation can be expressed as a significant weight lifted to a state of lightness or purity of light. It is about going beyond the primal state to explore a new kind of bliss in the world of spirits. And it is also about balance and the lightening of the heart, letting go of guilt and the bonds that keep us limited. So it's kind of breaking free of the primal state, but yet not necessarily ignoring it, knowing that it's in a powerful stage and an important part of being in form here on this planet. But at the same time, recognizing the light within us, that we don't necessarily all have to go and be light and then we escape and everything's just super dandy. It's that recognizing that we have the light within us and connecting into that space as much as we can also connect into the aliveness of the world, the life force of the world, the primal energy of the world. So that's what that full moon is about there, balancing out, that desire to go out and about and up and beyond, but also to keep it also here in the flesh and blood in the real world and to work with that and try to be as healthy as possible in that balance. And one can really connect into that well, does that mean is it's kind of connecting into one's love of the universe? Sure. Well, I mean, certainly love is a powerful part of all of that, the fabric of it all. So we can certainly connect into that as well. When I was talking about lightning of the heart, that's what that's about. Not and that constellation itself, the Egyptians really looked at that constellation, the scales, where if as part of the sort of the what the souls had to contend with, and if your heart weighed more than the feather, then you'd have to come back to the planet again. But if it was lighter than the feather or equal to, I think, and then you would be able to ascend to that next level. So that was sort of the after world, afterlife mythology of what from thousands of years ago from ancient Egypt. All right, so let's look at there's a Sun-Uranus conjunction. I didn't list this in the highlights, but I wanted to point this out because they're happening at 27 Taurus here, and then we have Hygeia only at 28 degrees. And you can see that in this image here that this is connecting us into, this happens every year, Sun-Uranus, but not every year with Hygeia. And so I wanted to bring that in because Hygeia is about wellness and self-care. And Taurus is about the physical realm and the body and the pleasures of the body, the comforts and kind of the attunement to the earth on a physical level. So this may give us maybe some surprises that could come through. So yeah, these surprises could come through here. And so seems to be involved in both that full moon on May 12th, and also, of course, at this time when the Sun and Uranus also conjunct. And then later in the month, we do have a Mercury Uranus conjunction too. All right, so let's get into the sun moving into Gemini. The last sun moves into a new sign every single month. And so from begins in May 20th, it moves into the sign of Gemini and goes all the way till June 20th, right at the solstice point. So this is again, as I've shared in various other videos in my writings, the sun, or sorry, the signs themselves are not the constellations. So when we say the sun in Gemini, it doesn't necessarily mean it's moving into the twins, but it does at the very end of its transit through Gemini reach a point where it's at the foot of the twins in that June 19th, 20th range. So because of the precession, the actual zodiacal constellations, which are different, they symbolically mean other, have some correspondences to the signs, but they're not the same thing as the signs. So just want to clarify that. So as we move into the season of Gemini, it brings an expansion of curiosity, exploration of knowledge, learning, and youthful play. Gemini is an air element sign or archetype that desires to know all that is around it within the mind and communicate that with the world. During these days of Gemini, it may be of help in stimulating our own curiosity about the world and gaining perspective from numerous frames of mind. This sign is the one that best symbolizes the rainbow flag of all expressions. So it's like the shapeshifter that can play any role. Gemini can play any role and be anything in a sense. It has sort of that mental creativity to be able to sit into any role in any place, like an actor on stage being able to play all the different roles at once in kind of a solo show. You see that sometimes in films too. It takes a certain state of mind to be able to creative mind to be able to do that and to sift through that. Now, Gemini is not the only one that can have this ability, if you will, but it is the one that typically is well known for it, and it tends to do it best. And so a part of its identity is being able to shapeshift. So Gemini can open up our minds through a wide variety of roles we can play on the stage of life. Gemini desires to be a free spirit, emboldened through the mind to create, write, and transmit information to the masses. So it is can be a powerful communicator and sometimes show up as a powerful teacher too, because it can have capacity to communicate, whether it be long-winded or whether it be being able to really communicate certain kinds of ideas to the world around them. So Gemini is really strongly suited for that, and typically found with people who have strong Gemini energy can be writers, communicators in other ways, networkers. There's various mediums in which you can communicate and connect with others. All right, so Saturn in Aries, May 24th. This is really super big for astrology. Don't say that lightly. This is in the context, especially with Neptune having moved into the sign of Aries back on March 30th of 2025. So Saturn will be in Aries from 2025 through 2028. So as part of this sea change this year, Saturn ingresses to Aries less than 2 months after Neptune did too. So this will set up a very significant concentrated period of a paradigm shift for the US and for the rest of humanity. So Saturn was last in the sign of Aries between 1996 and 1998, and before that in 1967 to 69. So both those periods have their own version of, we can call it a revolutionary spark. The 60s was much more profound because we had also a Pluto-Uranus conjunction period that was happening 65, 66, 67, 68 in those years. And so Saturn moving into there after opposing that alignment when it was in the sign of Pisces, it moved into Aries and sparking further movement and action being taken in the world through various protests and about the lack of justice, a quality um, revolution on a social level, on a political level, and creative level as well, between the music and the art, also spirituality. You could see this all over the place in 1960s and 1990s. It was a very different setup, but there were some revolutionary thoughts and ideas that were coming through, and action was taken. And for example, in Indonesia, there was the first female woman became ended up later becoming president. She didn't do it during that time, but she helped really stir up this really powerful political movement at the time in Indonesia, of all places. So that's an example of how Saturn Aries can show up. It's like this strong vocalization. Now, each time Saturn's in Aries is going to be a little bit different because the planets are going to be in different places. In this case, we've got Neptune in Aries. We're just coming off of the Venus Mercury pattern in Pisces Aries, back and forth for months. And now we've got this. So this invites in a more spiritual and visionary expansiveness and ideological expressions that have a chance to manifest into reality. Like there is this opportunity. When they were both in Pisces, they can certainly potentially manifest, but there's, always that chance that it was just an illusion or it was just a dream. But now in Aries, there's something solid. There's something that they can kind of hang their hat on or plant their flag on, if you will. This is the way that it could go. So it invites opportunities where singular missions, as well as on a countering level, this is something I found too with Saturn Aries, hardline controlling beliefs to take shape in battles against or with, in some ways, free spirit and independence supporting desires by others. So you have like one camp that could be more free spirited and like really wanting the justice and everything to be equal and to get out there and fight for those that can't fight for themselves, in this sort of this bold initiative for the long term. And then you've got the Saturn oppressive energy that is wanting to snuff that out or to control it in their own sort of counter hard line version of whatever they believe is their own freedom and all of that. And so there's that battle that can take place in the Saturn Aries arena. And with Neptune also in Aries, this could really like shape up in a massive force that shows up in the world and through all of humanity in different incarnations, depending on the country and the community and culture. Okay, so here's the moment Saturn enters Aries in on the chart. You can see it's only about a degree and a half from Neptune at that time. So Saturn is really making its progress known in the world as it shows up and gets closer and closer to Neptune. And they get within about a quarter of a degree from each other in July before they both retrograde. And then they will come into exact alignment or perfection, as they say in astrology, in the conjunction on February 20, 2026. So this Saturn movement into Aries, it takes place at 8:35 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. And again, this is May 24th, 2025. And then we have on the 2 days later, but also on the same day as the full moon, I'm sorry, the new moon, we have a Chiron Eris conjunction. So if you ever try to find the glyphs of Chiron and Eris, these are the glyphs. Um, and there are a series of three conjunctions. Something I mentioned in my 2025 video that I posted in December of 2024. So May 26, 2025, they conjunct at 2528 Aries. They will also do this again on October 8th, 2025, and then they will do it again March 19th, 2026. That's about, as the time of this recording, 11 months from now. So this conjunction period this is going to add to this volatility in the world. I don't have a doubt. And the intent of this conjunction is really to bring attention to issues surrounding war, activism, speaking from instinct, equal rights, healing from injustice and real world truth, and the wounds that it caused, has caused for centuries, especially in recent decades. So this is really this combination here. It also has a very strong feminine vocal component too. So women in general, but just the strength of what the feminine principle is in the world. What does that mean to us? I think something really wants to come through here during this 2025, 2026 period with Chiron Eris. And it may be a period where those that resist are going to try to react in really unhealthy or toxic ways. And with the rise of the strong toxic masculinity and the far right energy, that this is we can think of this as sort of a counterbalance to that, because it's there for some reason it has risen as a sort of this part of the ongoing decay of the patriarchy, is sort of this last breath of this of the toxic version of it. And yeah, it could take a while for it to fully to leave and dissipate out into the world. But this is a chance to rise up and kind of face that truth with greater heart, um, with greater voice, and not necessarily backing down from what is right out in the world, and not just laying down and letting those trample upon you, but actually speaking our truth and being heard and fighting in through from justice in any way that is possible in that way. So it's really standing up and being in that space, and really speaking out, like, and for those that that aren't able to, and there are those that have the energy, that have the capacity and the skills to show up for others as well. And this is the time where this can be strongly brought forth into the world. And I feel like it could still be where there's a lot of activism happening. I think it's with Chiron, even today, Chiron and Eris are getting close to each other, and you're seeing, in combination with all the other planetary alignments in Aries, Pisces energy, of the rise of that activism, the rise of speaking out and speaking our truth on what we really want, and not allowing those to sort of dictate to us that, oh, this is the way you should be, and you can't do anything about it, kind of a thing. But no, we can. That's the secret. We all have the power to show up and make decisions and utilize our free will to do it. Okay, so on the same day, and within hours actually of uh, the actually within an hour, I should say, of the new moon, we see that Chiron and Eris are conjunct here. And then you can see here's the new moon at 6 degrees, 5 minutes, Gemini. This is definitely going to include more surprises and kind of this almost this release of the mind being unchained, of like really showing up in a way that it hasn't, like really coming through in a big manner. You can also still see the double sextile and the trine still trying to form here with Pluto, Saturn, Neptune, and then as Uranus starts to make its way into begin to make its way into Gemini. That doesn't happen until July. So that double sextile is still forming. And we can also see here uh, that Jupiter is going to be moving into Cancer in June, and that will also have this other kind of relationship. It's really interesting, like temporary, but it'll be in that 150-degree spot from Pluto in June, in by the middle of June. So that will also play a role in some of this expression here. So this new moon takes place at 8:02 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time on May 26, 2025. And so here's the new moon Sabian symbol. The new moon and the sun, of course, will be in the constellation of the Bull, near the Pleiades star cluster, along with only if like I believe 4 degrees from the star Aldebaran. That's the eye of the Bull. Pleiades is about 0 degrees, so it's sitting not quite halfway between those two starry areas, but in the same constellation. So it's a really powerful part of the sacred hoop of stars that are really, really visible. So during the time of May and June, and into July, we really can't see the sacred hoop of stars very well, as it's kind of blotted out by the sun. But as we get into late July and early August, that area will become more clear, and you'll get a chance to kind of see those stars again in the early morning sky. So, what is the sapient symbol of the new moon at 6 degrees Gemini? Well, we add one, as we'd always do with the sapient symbol, to 7 Gemini, and the symbol with the sapient oracle from Linda Hill is from an old-fashioned well with the purest and coldest of waters. So she writes the key words as being nourished and satisfied, feeling supported by the environment, clarity of thought and perception, drawing on deep resources, links from the past, deep and sustaining, things you can rely upon, the pool of a universal experience, oasis, believing in others, ensuring water supplies, and cool, refreshing water that is plenty for everyone. It's from page 67 of her book. So part of the interpretation, or the main sort of summary of that would be kind of a renewal of one's self and clarity of focus and the joy that the earth brings to us. It's an enrichment of the soul and mind itself. So, we're thinking about the purest of waters, something that is like more celestial in the nature, not so much. I mean, it's earthy because it's taken the form of a liquid matter, but it is something that is more deeply connected to the divine and sort of that pure energy, or even we can even think of it as mental energy too at that time, with that being in the sign of Gemini. So this is that strong energy and being there at the eye of the bull. You could see something where it has a lot of that sort of earthbound nature to it, and sort of the whatever we want to call perfection that there is, earth itself and water itself. This is an expression of that perfection, not perfection to achieve a perfect thing, but that everything else in itself, in its way, is perfection. Like that the oddities, that the things that we see that are sometimes out of balance or out of normal, that it's part of that natural rhythm and flow of things that is in a way part of the perfect rhythm. But there can be disruptions to that, of course. And so the water might give us a chance to kind of sit down and relax into that space and maybe rejuvenate the being that we are and enrich our mind and our soul at the same time. All right. So what is after this? All right. So we have just as a reminder, the new moon again happening on the same day within an hour of the Chiron Eris conjunction on May 26th. So that's a really big day, especially in the evening time Pacific daylight time there. So it'll be the middle of the night, or 11 o'clock Eastern daylight time. And then in Europe, it'll be in the early morning on the 27th. All right, so the chronology. So here's just a brief, of all the major things that are happening. I don't have every single thing listed, all the different moon conjunctions or the various aspects of everything. Otherwise it'd be filled up of all the more minor aspects that are here. So you can see, Pluto retrograde here on the 4th, the full moon in Scorpio 2 days after Mercury goes into Taurus. We have the Aries moving in Aries too, something I didn't mention, but that's a big deal because it's sort of another marker of all the things that are happening with um, Pisces, Aries back and forth, the 29th degree to the 0 degree. There's another slide that talks about that. Then the sun moves into Gemini in on the 20th. And then before Saturn in Aries, we have the moon Venus conjunction. This is one of the signs, the second chakra. I'm sorry, not the second chakra, the second gate that gets activated by this the moon cycle itself. So the first gate was in April. This is the second gate hitting the third eye chakra. So this is definitely something to pay attention to. The Venus will be in Aries at that time. Um, and then Mercury in Gemini comes in on the 25th. Then we have the new moon in Gemini, and then Chiron Eris conjunction also on the 26th. And then there's a Mercury Sun conjunction happening on the 29th, and that's in the sign of Gemini. So these are the major events. There's I don't have the Mercury Uranus conjunction. But the actual Mercury Uranus conjunction does happen on the same day that Saturn moves into Aries on the 24th, going into the 25th. So just something to have that awareness of as this really powerful month is coming up. I think March and April were really, really vital and sort of like sending out the ripples of the pond, so to speak, from the rock that was tossed in it, and that May is sort of like taking those first waves that come after April, and taking them to ultimately to the shore for the rest of the year. So this is what this month is all about, and I just have another slide here that shows everyone that in April we had two, but in May you can see below the yellow highlighted one we have three, and that includes Ceres moving into the sign of Aries on May 16th and moved into Pisces back on February 23rd. So we have all of these things that are happening, a lot of different points at 29 degrees Pisces, 0 degrees Aries. This is the Alpha and Omega transition. This is why these months are so volatile, is that there's all this, we're in a time of massive change. And there is a lot more to come. And this is something that is meant to be long lasting, not something that is just temporary and then we're back to normal. This is something that is it's going to be around for a long time, all of these changes. And but the changes will still happen. It's not that this change happens and it's static, that it just stays in that same place. No, it's ongoing. There's a lot more development. It's just the very beginning of these things happening here. All right. Well, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you do, and share the video if you find people that like astrological videos and want to know what's upcoming, some of the big events that are coming each month. And when planets like especially the outer planets move into new signs, talk about that as well. You can find more information about my practice and what I do. I do this for a living as a shamanic alchemical astrologer at inspiralnexus.com. And then I also work with Kane and Castell, and we taught online courses at mystaralchemy.com. And I do personal readings, astrology mentoring, classes, events, and astrocartography. And you can contact me via email at inspiralnexus@gmail.com, or find more information on my website, inspiralnexus.com. So thank you all for being a part of this. Until next time, everyone, be safe.